but this is the single largest piece of video game news I can think of that has happened in maybe 20 years. I don't even know how far back you could go before you get bigger news than this. If you've lived under a rock, because this is news big enough that even my parents were talking about it, which tells you how far outside of the gaming sphere that shit went, Microsoft put in to purchase Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion in cash. All cash offer of $68.7 billion, which is only about a week, not even, I don't think, a full week after what we talked about last week, I think, unless it happened in between podcasts, but I can't remember, where the then newest peak was like, well, I can't even remember what the deal was, but it was for like $12.7 billion. And now we're at $68.7 billion. That went up real quick. That skyrocketed. And so, while this deal isn't finalized yet, and even if it passes the SEC, which I am certain they're at least going to give a cursive glance their way for this deal. Just a look over. Like, maybe we should at least pretend like we care about monopolies for 3 seconds and take a look at this deal. If it goes through, this will move Microsoft into the number 3 spot in the gaming sector behind, I think it's Tencent, and Sony is still going to be ahead of them in terms of like, I can't remember what the metric was, like by volume or something like that. Some degree. Not necessarily pure dollar amount. It's a big deal. It's fucking enormous. This is not on anyone's bingo card for 2022 or possibly any other year. I don't know anyone that would have assumed that anyone was going to buy Activision Blizzard. If anything, I think even if it was only a year ago, before a lot of this like crazy shit was going down in Activision Blizzard, that most people would have assumed that Activision Blizzard would have been the ones doing the buying, not the other way around. And there were a long list of developers and publishers that people would have likely assumed would have gotten purchased long before Activision Blizzard. So I've got a bunch of things here, Jeff. I'm gonna say them, but bounce them your way. We'll have a little go back on each one of these little points here, and we'll cover this bad boy because this is really the meat and potatoes. And this is big because I think, while we already knew where the industry was going in general, I think this just skipped us forward a couple of years in that timeline pretty substantially. So this is big stuff. So we'll break down some of this. Like I said, this brings Microsoft to roughly the number 3 spot in terms of size. Microsoft has also, in case you didn't know this, split the gaming division off into its own thing. So when Phil Spencer was like sort of hinting at him maybe not necessarily being there anymore, psych motherfucker, he is now the CEO of what is called Microsoft Gaming. They have Microsoft is so serious about games now, they've split off an entire division and put Phil Spencer, rightfully so, because this motherfucker don't miss, put him at the very top and made him CEO. This also gives Microsoft a good in to the mobile gaming sector because it includes Activision's ownership of King, which is the owner of Candy Crush, and amongst others. And of course, the absolutely colossal Call of Duty Mobile, which made billions of dollars. Microsoft has also a lot of cleaning up to do now that they'll be inheriting Activision Blizzard's cultural mess, but Phil seems confident that he'll be able to, 1, keep a lot of the employees that are already there, and 2, be able to clean up the culture pretty quick. And I think that's pretty likely given the fact that a lot of the cultural issues seem to be happening from top down and not necessarily bottom up. So we'll stop there. Mr. Black, how do you feel about this deal from a mobile gaming perspective for Microsoft's pickup? They didn't really have much of an inroads to mobile gaming before this, and I suspect that was a major point as to why they were willing to spend this much money, because as we know, and we've talked about in the past, mobile gaming is by far the more profitable for gaming businesses right now, and you need an inroad if you're going to be in this game thing long term. So how do you feel about Microsoft's pickup here from a mobile perspective, and how do you feel about their chances at cleaning up the corporate culture, and how do you think that's going to play out? How do you think they're going to accomplish that?
There's a lot there. Well, on a mobile side, I mean, you're right. I mean, they just bought their way into the market without really putting in any work. The infrastructure's there. Yeah. What? I can't hear what you're saying. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry. Just wanted to make sure it was okay if Thor came outside.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from like a mobile standpoint, they bought their way in. I mean, they're in now. They're in. They got King. And it's not just Candy Crush. King's got like a lot.
Lots.
A lot. They also got, like you said, the Call of Duty mobile. But I think the deal is bigger than that. I think I'm sure they want to get into the mobile space, and it's obviously they are, since they spent a lot of money. But I think there's a bigger picture at play.
Oh, there's more. I'm just focusing on the mobile part. Then we got more to talk about.
Oh, okay.
So don't jump ahead of me now. Just stick to mobile for now, I guess.
Well, when it comes to cleaning up the mess, I mean, I think this is the best way to do it. Is if Blizzard, Activision stayed the way they were, and Bobby is running the show, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're cleaning it up." There's always going to be a stink, right? Always, no matter what. It doesn't matter what comes out of that man's mouth. People are just going to be like, "You're full of shit." It's Blizzard ain't the same. Activision ain't the same. It's downhill. You get somebody like Spence, who people like. They're going to be much more forgiving. He's got a better track record on getting shit done, being a man of his word. His career isn't perfect either, but at the same time, it's no Bobby. And I think they got like a get out of jail free card by Microsoft buying them out, because Blizzard, Activision, specifically the Blizzard side of things, it's dire times. The fans are upset with Blizzard. They're conflicted. They want to like their games, but they feel like they're forced to not like them now because of all the shit that's been going on. Let's be real. Their games have gone downhill over the last like 4 or 5 years, significantly so. And this will give the fans, I think, some hope that games can come back to normal form. And under new management, I think fans are going to be more forgiving. They're just going to be like, yeah, okay, clean it up. And once people start getting fired and removed or resign, people are going to start feeling even better about it. Blizzard is gone. Activision Blizzard now is gone. Now it's Microsoft Gaming, and they just bought out them. It's like a reboot, right? It's with all the stuff that you love, but now they got to follow through and get it done. If they fuck this up, well, I mean, it's going to be a $70 billion mistake, right? Like, but I just don't see how they fuck this up. The stock is at a pretty much almost at a historic low. Now it's not. So they're buying it at the perfect time. So they're getting a deal. I know there's a lot of money, but I think this is a deal. I think this is a steal for what they're trying to do.
Certainly better than it would have been, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, right? Oh, 100%. They might not even have sold 2 years ago. That's the thing. They might have been like, hell no, I ain't selling this.
Well, they definitely wouldn't have sold 2 years ago.
Now they're like, yeah, now they're like, get me out of this fucking mess.
You know what Bobby's thinking is, I've got two choices. I'm staring down the barrel of like endless lawsuits and unionization, or fuck it, these guys are going to buy me out. I've got a shitload of shares. This is going to run my shit out. I cash my chips. They give me a $400 million fucking golden parachute. My ass is out the door, and I just go on and do some other shit somewhere else. Like, Bobby wins no matter what here.
Oh, yeah,
Bobby's
winning.
fine. That was always going to happen. I think it's more or less like from the fans of Activision games and Blizzard games, they get to, like you said, I think they get to look at this and say, okay, we can feel better about this now because we're going in a direction that's not whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah.
And that's big for a number of reasons. Activision was definitely going down a path, and this was another one of my points here, where their entire business model was crank out a Call of Duty game every calendar year and then basically run Blizzard into the fucking ground. That was like their entire business model, was that they started putting, we talked about this in the podcast, every available man, woman, child, dog, rabbit, whatever the fuck they could get their hands on that was breathing, onto making Call of Duty games, whether it was mobile or their main franchises or Warzone. Every single fucking one of them. Like, we even talked about how the guys that did the Tony Hawk Pro Skater remasters got thrown into Call of Duty. Everyone was working on Call of Duty. And now that Microsoft owns all this shit, I highly doubt. In fact, Phil talked about this in an interview here that just got posted today. Phil's talking about all sorts of fucking IPs that Activision owns, because they own a massive slew of intellectual property, various games. And what everyone was already talking about, and what looks to be the case the way that Phil's talking, is they're not going to be forcing the entire division to be cranking out Call of Duty anymore. They know that they've got a lot of talented developers. They know they have a lot of people that don't necessarily want to be working on Call of Duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. And they've got other games that they can actually build out and make money on and not have to do the same thing that Activision was doing, because it wasn't sustainable. And we saw this with the most recent Call of Duty. It's no longer sustainable for them. So the next point that I've got here is that Bobby is to stay on until at least the deal closes, which is the end of the 2022 fiscal year, which is sometime, I believe, for Microsoft in June of 2023. Bobby was putting out, put out a bit of a meeting, all hands. You know, he called a fireside chat that was supposed to be a half hour, and he showed up for he showed up for 17 minutes of that half an hour, and then showed up late and left early. And basically just gave them a press release, didn't say anything of any substance whatsoever, to say more than, he'll be there. I've been here since 92 or whatever the fuck. The only thing I love more than Activision Blizzard is my children. And bloody blah, but I'll be here at least until the deal was over, and then that was basically it. He is 100% gone. They might not say that he's fired, but his ass is gone. And Bobby's got an ego that he will make sure that it will look like it was any other reason. He was already coming up with a million reasons why this sale happened, except for I ran this company into the ground and we're getting sued into the fucking dirt. Like, any reason he could come up with, and he was like, oh, this was such a great deal. They gave us such a good dollar amount. This will allow us to make all these games and be great and move on, as if he was going to stick around for longer than the fucking deal was. But he will be gone, guaranteed, after this deal is signed, if not very shortly after. Otherwise, heads would roll. People would look at Microsoft like, are you fucking serious?
Well, it's like, why are you doing this, right? Like, what's the point? Yeah. Right? You want to win people over, get rid of them.
Exactly.
Show the
not
public
just Bobby,
that you're a lot of fucking people.
Like almost the entire board. Is gone.
And they will, trust me. They're going to do it. It might some might take a little longer than others. They might not outright fire, but like, people are going to resign, right? This is part of the deal. This is all part of the deal. This shit is all ironed out. That's just it. They're done.
When we're talking just shy of 70 bill, Mr. Black, how much of these games that they crank out that are existing today, so we're talking about the main ones. We're talking about Call of Duty chiefly. That's the big one. That's the elephant in the room. On the Blizzard side, you got World of Warcraft, you've got Overwatch, and you've got StarCraft, or basically
Hearthstone.
the only, and Hearthstone. That's like your core there, right?
Yeah.
How do you see
Diablo.
the exclusivity of these titles going if we're talking $70 billion? And before, when we were talking about Bethesda, it was one thing to say, all right, we're going to take this one or two major titles, Fallout and Elder Scrolls. They're almost guaranteed that's only Xbox and PC. It ain't going anywhere else because they're making their money back. But that was at a 7 point whatever billion dollar buyout. This is 10 times that size. And as Call of Duty is very popular, it's also insanely popular on the PlayStation console and in other places than just on Xbox and PC. Do you think that in the short or long term, because maybe it changes, do you think that they're ever going to lock Call of Duty up to PC and Xbox only? Or do you think that they're going to leave it on the PlayStation because it's too many people to leave off while they're trying to earn their $70 billion back? It's a tough one. This isn't as easy as Bethesda. Bethesda's pretty straightforward with this.
Yeah. I'm going to go and say it'll still be on cross-platform. I think there will be significant perks to buying it and playing it on Xbox. I might even go as far as saying it might be free to play on Game Pass. And you have to pay the full amount to buy it on the PlayStation Store. But I just don't, Microsoft has always been about cross-play. And so I don't see them switching gears anytime soon. But I do believe there will be some titles that will go exclusive on Game Pass, 100%. Something like Call of Duty, I think we're still going to see cross-platform with significant perks. Fuck. Man, it's tough. Like, I'm almost speechless because it is so big.
It's so vast, bro.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's going to be like a game-by-game basis, right? Yeah. They're going to have to sit down and say, what are we going to get? How many? Because ultimately, this isn't about how many units they sell. It's ultimately about Game Pass, right? People have to stop thinking about, why would you spend $70 billion on something? You're still going to have to put it out on your competitors' systems, et cetera, et cetera. You got to stop thinking about, that's old school video game market shit. We're in the future now. The future is now, old man. We're in the future. What does the future entail? You know what Netflix is? That's what Microsoft is doing with games.
Yeah.
It is a subscription service that they are going to provide you with games to play for a fee every single month, and you can play whatever games you want, and they come with all the DLC, and they have all that shit day one. And you can still buy microtransactions and shit within the stores if you want, but all the DLC and the base games will be on these services, and that's what they're pushing. Because they will make more sustainable money long-term doing it that way than they will if they rely on attach rates and raw console sales. Because Microsoft is putting all this shit in place to do what? Play it anywhere. You hear it come out of Phil's mouth all the time. We want to put games in as many hands as possible on as many platforms as possible. They've got their streaming services for that. They can play the shit on the phone, tablets, laptops, PCs, your TV, smart TV, through an Xbox, on an actual gaming PC. They want to get that shit. Shit, you get a browser on the PlayStation, you can play that shit through the browser on PlayStation if you really wanted to. It doesn't matter. They want that shit everywhere. And in order to do that, they need to really drive their services home. It's not about individual sales anymore. You got to think bigger picture than that. And that's going to cost them money up front to set that in place. And that's what this $70 billion is.
Yep. That's that's the play, right? And that's why I'm not overly sold on the fact that it will be cross-platform forever, because they're not buying these properties because they sell lots of games in itself. They bought this, in my opinion, they bought out Activision Blizzard for the vast catalog that they have that everybody is attached to. No matter what, no matter if you're on the Xbox, the PlayStation, PC, they own a huge, massive.
The things that people don't even think about, like LucasArts and shit. Just enormous.
I don't think people realize how many IPs they just bought. And they're going to put all this shit online on their fucking Game Pass, the vast majority of it. Whether that happens next year, the year after, or 5 years from now. It's going to take a little bit of time. They can't culture shock you immediately and just cut everybody off and say, this is where you have to play it. This is going to be a gradual thing, and it's going to ramp up pretty fucking quick because they spent $70 billion. So they're going to have to get their money back. But here's the thing. They're basically creating the streaming gaming market like Netflix did. Netflix is still burning billions of dollars a year. They're running at a loss, but they're gaining all of these subscriptions. This is exactly what Microsoft is doing. They are taking what everybody loves and they're going to put it on a Game Pass. They're going to make it nice and cheap to the point where you almost already can't say no to Game Pass. Once this shit comes on, you just have to own it, right? It's kind of like Netflix, right? You just get it because that's it. Yeah, there's other streaming services, but like those streaming services. But what did we talk about
before with Xbox Game Pass? How much per month would it have to be for the average gamer where it would no longer make sense? At minimum, the cost of one full-price game per month could be the subscription cost, and it would still provide value because you're beating one game per month for the entire year, you could theoretically charge in the future $90 fucking a month Canadian.
Yes.
For Game Pass.
Yes.
And if you're beating a minimum of one full price game per month,
yep,
you are winning. If you get 2, you're doubling your fucking your spend.
Yep.
So like what are the odds of Game Pass ever being $90 a month? Basically 0. Not for the foreseeable future. That's a long way away.
You're a long ways away, but $39.99 a month, absolutely. And
I could see that.
People will pay it. Not up front, not right now, but over time, like what Netflix is doing. There's Netflix subscriptions. Yeah, dude, there's Netflix subscriptions that are $50 now. You know? Like, this is inevitable. But right now, they're just building a catalog. And this is monumental. And this is basically them saying, guys, like, this is what Stadia needed to be. Right, what they're about to do, Stadia skipped it. They created this thing, this cloud.
They
shit.
wanted to just do the cloud shit and ignore the.
But you need the games. You need the games. You need the loyalty, right? Or people just ain't gonna do your shit. Game Pass has been in circulation for a long time now. It's getting better and better. There's 25 million people that are already on Game Pass now. You go ahead and you slap in World of Warcraft on there. You're now going to have millions of people. Like World of Warcraft probably only got maybe 5 million subscriptions now. Like you put that shit on Game Pass, there's going to be millions of people that are now going to play WoW. And you can add it in that like, hey, your WoW subscription comes with Game Pass. You know, it's going to bring people over to the platform. Next thing you know, they're playing the other stuff. They're spending more money on there. This is the ecosystem that they bought. And I know that people are like, oh, you know, I had this guy on Twitter that was like, oh, man, you know, they would need to double the price of Game Pass. It's like, well, that's going to come in time. But they're going to burn money up in the front to get you in the door and expose you to this luxury, this thing that you didn't even know you wanted. It's like Disney Plus, right? Like some people are like, oh, whatever, you know, old Disney. Once the kids start watching Disney Plus, that's it. You're done. You're spending. You're buying Disney Plus from here on out. And when those $10 raises come up every 3 years or whatever, you're paying it because now it's become an integral part of your everyday. And this is exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it so smart. And it's going to get to the point, dude. I'm telling you, this generation consoles. The only reason why that the consoles that we have physical media is because I shouldn't say most, but there is a large portion of people that still want to buy their games. They still want to have the physical copy. They just can't let it go yet. It's what they're used to. The new generation gamers, they don't give a shit. But us, you know, the ones that have been dealing with cartridges and discs and stuff. And that's why there's a secondary option to get a discless thing.
There's actually 3 right now.
Okay, 3 different options. There's
physical, there's digital exclusive purchase, right?
Yep,
where you own it digitally and it can't be taken off a subscription service. It can be taken off Steam, but I mean, that happens like fucking almost never, right?
Yep.
And then there's the subscription service like Game Pass where it can be taken off, but it can be a year and a half, you know, whatever, 9 months, like long enough that you've already played and finished the game. But they still give you the option to buy digital. So if you have all your shit and you want to buy digital later because it's going off the pass, it's there. So there's three options now.
Yeah. So like the reason why that, you know, in their eyes, I bet, you know, they would have preferred to just not make consoles. Period. I mean, listen, I can see this in another 10 years, maybe less, 7, where there is what's going to happen, Adam, is everything is going to be on the cloud. Everything is going to be through your Game Pass. And all you need to do is take your fucking controller. You're going to sell a controller. And you're going to take your controller to your buddy's house, to a trip, wherever. And you're just going to log in and you're going to play whatever the fuck you want to play on whatever monitor you want to play on. And you're going to log in like Netflix. You're going to log in and you're going to play your shit. And this is inevitable. This is inevitable. This is going to happen 100%. And this purchase, they're not doing this purchase for one or two games. They're doing this to have a massive catalog. This is what Netflix did. This is what Disney's done. This is what Amazon is doing, paying $200 million to get a fucking to get like a Lord of the Rings show made or whatever, or even more than that. I think it's $500 million to make eight episodes. You know, they're not doing this because they think they're gonna profit. They're doing this for content, to get people on the fucking platform and create a habit. This is long term. And what Microsoft is doing today is not going to reflect what's going to happen in 6 months or a year. This is the foundation blocks of what's to come in the next decade, 2 decades from now. This is so big. And Sony right now is going, oh my fuck. We are fucked right now. Sony, I actually have no idea what Sony's going to do. Microsoft is getting so big right now that it could literally come to a point. This is going to sound insane. But this could get to the point where Sony could just become a games maker, and they're going to be putting it on platforms like Microsoft Gaming to put their shit on there. Like this is how big it is. Nintendo's always going to do what Nintendo does. They're in their own thing, and I think Nintendo's always going to go the console route because that's their niche. But
they can stay profitable because they've got their games are unique to themselves, so
exactly.
It doesn't matter for them.
What like I have no idea how Sony is going to Sony destroyed Microsoft on the last generation, and they're outselling Microsoft now. But now this is the game changer. This is the $70 billion fuck you. And guess what, guys? Microsoft could buy Sony. I mean, it'll never happen because of monopolies and everything else. But they're so big that Sony is dog shit to them. Microsoft has so much money that they could do this acquisition again, and they could buy out whatever the fuck they want. I have no idea where Sony's going to go from here. But Game Pass has just turned into this massive thing. I think it's going to get to the point where you're just going to log in, play what you want. Shit's going to come out. Very, very few games are going to be allowed to go on other platforms, and they're going to want you on Game Pass and taking your money. And that's going to take a little while to do. But guys, get used to it. It's coming. It's coming.
Game Pass is announced basically the same day that this got announced that they are at 25 million subscribers currently. Where do you think in by the end of 2023, so this deal goes through midway 2023, you're going to start to see shit pop up on Game Pass and whatnot. Mid 2023, so end of 2023, what do you think that number is going to be?
Almost double.
I think we're talking 40
almost double. Yeah. 35, 40 million. 35, 40 million.
Just off this one acquisition.
It depends on what games they decide to put out up front. The moment Call of Duty is on there, the moment something World of Warcraft goes on there, just imagine if they get like World of Warcraft on the consoles, and there is so much shit that can be done now that they own this. This is going to change the game. I mean, you said that in terms of news, I actually can't think of something bigger that's happened in gaming since like I don't know, like 3D consoles. Like, you know what I mean?
The only thing I can think of maybe that like, and it wasn't news like this is news per se, but the only thing I can think of that would be as big as terms of like tectonic shifts in the industry would be the day that Sony and Nintendo parted ways, and Nintendo said, we don't want to go that route, we want to go cartridges, and we got the N64, or sorry, not the N64, the N64 and the PlayStation 1. Yeah. And there was a fork where we got the PlayStation now with Nintendo consoles, and we get put on this 2-console arc that eventually Sega then went away in 99, 2000, and then we got the Xbox in 2001, and we're on this 3. That's the only thing that I can think of in modern gaming, so not the stuff back in the 80s where the market almost collapsed and then the Nintendo Entertainment System basically resurrected that shit. Like there's that, then it was the split off of Nintendo and Sony, and then Xbox shows up, and now this. Yeah. Coincidentally, both Microsoft things. But Microsoft was in gaming before, but Microsoft wasn't
Not like
$70
this.
billion in cash
Not
in
like
gaming. Microsoft wasn't, here's your own division
Yeah.
into
No, this
gaming.
is-
Now we've got
this-
Microsoft Gaming led
Yeah.
by Phil, I don't fucking miss Spencer. Because you know what happened, Jeff? They had the last schmuck almost completely bankrupt. Have you watched the documentary that Xbox put up on YouTube yet? That went across Xbox's the division, their entire like birth and all the way up until the launch of the Series X. They aired out all their dirty laundry. They talked about how close they were to bankruptcy. They talked about all the struggles and shit that they went, all the mistakes that they made. And they really focused heavily at one point on how much of a mistake it was running with the Kinect and all of that, and the NFL fucking bullshit and all that other nonsense where it wasn't about gaming and how much of a failure that was. Phil Spencer came in, saved that shit, got it to where they are now, where they're competing again, and got enough clout that he went to the CEO of Microsoft. What's his name? Satya? I can't remember. Nadella? I should probably know his name. And walked into the room with Phil Spencer's now ankle-long dick and said, hey, are we going in on this shit? Or are we going in on this shit? I got 25 million Game Pass subscribers. We've been doing big things and big numbers out here, and this is the future. Are we going all in or are we going all in? And he looked at Phil and he said, Phil, I respect your candor and also the size of your cock. Yes, here's $70 billion. Go buy the largest publisher on earth. And he said, all right, I'll be right back. And then he did it.
He did it.
He bought
And
that
here we
shit.
are.
And now here we are.
Uh,
So clearly, Sony doesn't have this kind of money to buy
hell
this
no.
shit. Even if they were
Hell no.
borrowing capital, they're never going to get anywhere near that. With that being said, they obviously also have to start buying more shit up to be able to lock in games and intellectual property to carry them forward against this now absolutely monstrous Microsoft gaming division. With that being said, what do you think might be the companies, the publishers and developers that they're going after? Or do you think that they're just going to target individual IPs instead of buying up the entire company to accomplish this goal? Are we going to see them buy out Square Enix, Capcom maybe, focus more on Japanese companies? Do they go over and say, hey, Ubisoft, would you like to join us? Where do you think they're going to try and go?
I think where they're going right now is they're going to see a therapist and they're trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. They're shitting themselves right now, and I'm just going to go out and say it. I don't think there's a single company that they can buy that is going to match what just
not
ensued.
match, but they have to respond, right? Like
They
that's
have
kind
to
of
respond. I mean, the closest thing, I don't know. Like maybe they buy Sega, and take all of Sega's IPs.
They could afford Sega.
They could afford Sega, and like there's been rumors that Sega's kind of like whatever. I don't know. And it also depends on if they're going to try and compete with the online marketplace where they're trying to do their subscription based thing.
They said that they're doing something. We don't know what that is yet.
Well,
it's
now
got a
they're going
code
to
name.
I don't know, man.
Is the code name now we're fucked? What's the code name for that situation?
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's the problem, right? Is they come out with this now, and unless they go and literally take all of their great, and let's not get it twisted here. Sony's got a lot of. I'm gonna go.
They're
and
not
say
dead.
It. They're not dead.
No.
Sony has got a lot of great IPs, and they're bigger and better than the ones that Xbox had. Now.
They're in some trouble now.
Now they're in some trouble. Now they're going, okay, that was monumental. Like they didn't, this is like if Sony lost, their big titles, like if they lost their God of Wars and their fucking, they just, Microsoft came down and just bought everything that they bought a company, a publisher that I think every single gamer that is listening to this podcast right now
has played at least one of their games.
And or currently does. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about like once a year or once every 4 years when a new title comes out. We're talking
times a week,
daily.
Yeah.
Like a go-to game. Go-to. This is bad. And if Sony comes out with their version of Game Pass, it's already going to look infinitely inferior to what Microsoft has, and you can't expect Sony to then put every one of their major IPs on that right away. How are they going to make money? Not they're just in a they're in a bad spot, and I don't know how they're going to do it. And guys, I'm not a Microsoft fanboy. I never even played the Xbox One. I own it, but I've never played it. I haven't played their newest version.
I own a PS5. I don't own a Series X or S.
I do too. I own a PS5, and you know what I use it for? Netflix and streaming. On different apps, Plex and different things. That's what I use it for. I don't own a PS5 game. But I am a Sony. I'd be like what they consider more of a Sony fanboy. Now I'm being converted. I'm not going to go out and buy an Xbox, but I'm sure as shit going to get Game Pass. I'm playing on my PC. This game over. If something is now available on Game Pass, why would I buy it on the PlayStation 5? I'm going to just play it on the Game Pass. And if Microsoft really wanted to go fucking balls deep on Sony's asshole from all this pent up frustration and poundings that they took over the last 7-8 years, then they can go, you know what? Fuck you guys. None of our games are going on your fucking platform. None. You want to play these games? Come buy the Xbox or get a Game Pass and play it on your PC where it's better. Guys, we want it to be a PC. We want it to go on PC anyway. Fuck this console shit. We don't even really like consoles. We're making consoles to appease you because we have to. Because we're competing against Sony. Now we're in our own little league here. Join Game Pass. Spend $20, $30 a month and get every fucking game you could want. And the games that you already play. And do it where you want to do it. I mean, this is, I don't know. They spent $70 billion to do it. They spent $70 billion. They didn't spend $70 billion to just buy these. They did this to create a new sector. They did this to be the gods of the next generation of how we consume games. And they just bought themselves at the top. And we got to ask ourselves here, how in the fuck is Sony going to dig themselves out of this hole? Because it's only going to start going downhill from here. This is bad. This is really bad.
Investors did overreact a little bit. Sony's market cap went down $20 billion yesterday. That was maybe a little bit of an overreaction, but that just means somebody's going to buy the dip and make a shitload of money the following day. Sony does have to do something to respond, if only for their investors. They have to show that they're not going to just take this on the chin and walk away. They have to do something, and they have to give them a roadmap of what they're going to do to compete long term. Because now everyone knows. Microsoft's been walking around telling the world now for 2 years what their long-term goal is. Phil Spencer's been preaching the word for 2 years. Everyone knows, investors or not. This is not hidden in internal communications or anything like that, or investors meetings or shareholder meetings. This is public knowledge constantly preached for 2 years now. We don't really know what the fuck Sony's ideas are. Up to this point, Sony's like the Arby's of the gaming world. It's like the Arby's, we got the meats. Sony's like, we got the games. And that was basically it.
Yeah, that was it. That was their argument. We got games.
And that continues to be it, which is great.
Sure.
But it's not gonna, that's like a thing that's gonna solidify you for about another 6 to 10 years.
Yep.
After that 6 to 10 years, if you don't have something that's already been in the works to get you to the next junction in the industry at that 10-year mark,
you're getting left behind. That's it.
Welcome to the Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah, you're going to have games, but those games are going to be played on Microsoft. That's where it's going to go.
Here's a great example. I could go on and play any version of Skyrim that I want on Game Pass. Everything is available to me. No issues at all. I went to go and find something that Em could play after she's done Breath of the Wild. We got the PS5 because she plays, Genshin, Breath of the Wild on the Switch and whatnot. She likes that kind of game, that action adventure. I went to go find, and I bought it even on sale. And I I felt my dick and my one good testicle retract into my fucking body as I dropped $70 on Skyrim. Because I knew that within arm's reach,
Yep.
I had something that was free 99.
Yep.
And in my mind, I went, this is $70. You know, if I just multiplied that a couple of times, I could just buy a Series X and put it here and share my Game Pass that I use on my PC there, and she can play whatever game she wants for $14.99 in tax a month.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, people were saying in chat a while ago, like, there's no way that Game Pass is worth more than $20 a month. Like, the average spend of a gamer per month is so much fucking higher than $20. And when they look at, and like Jeff said, when they look at if they have a PlayStation and an Xbox or a PlayStation and a PC, and they see the same game on both, and one is included in Game Pass, and the other is not.
That's it.
The majority of people, whether you're part of that group or not, doesn't matter. The majority are going to go for the thing where they don't have to spend, because not only are you going to get the day one shit, you're going to get the DLC.
You're getting all of it.
You're getting everything.
Yep, you're getting every last bit of it. And guys, let's not forget now how many millions of people buy Call of Duty. How many millions of people have subscriptions to WoW? How many millions of people play Hearthstone? How many millions of people? How many millions of people are going to want to try out Overwatch 2, right? Not saying it's going to do particularly well, but let's just say how many millions of people play StarCraft, right? Globally, how many millions of people? That's probably hundreds of thousands now. But how many millions of people are playing these games that they just bought? And if it is included in Game Pass, that's the only argument you need. This isn't like they started a new thing where they've got a bunch of new. Thank you. They've got a bunch of new IPs that they bought out. You know, they get new developers making new games, and I'm sure they will. But they just bought the hearts of everybody, and they become the savior of the company that was going downhill, of the thing that everybody loves. And people are going to have loyalty right off the jump from that. They're going to just thank them with their wallets. And people think $19.99 is a lot of money. That ain't a lot of money. I'm telling you, Call of Duty comes out every fucking year, and people are going out and spending $100 on COD. That's just COD. That's just one game. You know, you get a couple of games in a year, 3 games in a year. You know, that's less than your subscription costs for the entire year.
You start 3 games,
dude. Plus, on top of that, you're gonna have access to everything. So if you just feel like trying a game out, you don't even have to be like, you know what, I don't feel like buying this game because like I don't want to spend $100 and then maybe not like it. This shit is you turn a game on, play it once, be like, this game sucks, never play it again, move on to the next. You're gonna have so much shit. You're gonna play your old games on there, new games on there. They're gonna have special edition shit come out. You're gonna get all your DLC in one day, and you're gonna be able to play it on your PC or your console. You do whatever the fuck you want. You don't even need to own a PlayStation anymore. You just either own it. You're gonna have a PC and a Game Pass. If that's what you want, that's all you need. That's the show.
Because look, there are downsides for people that want to own all of their shit, right? I get it. I was right there with you until it started costing $100 after tax to buy a single fucking video game.
Adam,
now that is a commit, bro. Listen, that is a fourth. That is a quarter of my car payment in a single game.
Yes. And Adam, they'll get over it. Listen, this nobody likes change. All right. Look what happened with the streaming world. All right. Let's move back about 10 years here. Shit, 7 years. Netflix is a thing. People are like, yo, why am I spending this much money a month when I don't even own the movie anymore? I can't plug my Blu-ray, my DVD in. Now nobody gives a fuck about Blu-ray. You see this for 50 cents in bargain bins. Nobody gives a flying fuck. People are spending $29.99 on a fucking rental on Disney Plus when they already are paying the fucking subscription on Disney Plus. People are getting over it. And people will do the same for video games. The issue is we didn't really have that option until Game Pass, and not everybody jumped on board because they didn't even know they wanted it yet. Now, when you start throwing on some of the shit that people are already buying and they go, shit, I'm already buying Call of Duty. Shit, I'm already spending $20 a month on WoW or whatever it is. I could go over to Game Pass, get it for free, and I get all this shit also. They're gonna hook you in, and that's gonna be the show. And then over years, it's gonna go up $1 here, $2 here. There'll be like a 4K version, a fucking, a full DLC version. Or if you only want to spend $15 a month, you don't get any DLC. You just get the games. But then you can kind of pick and choose what DLCs you want to buy. There'll be all this a la carte shit that you want to do as a subscription service so that everybody can afford it. And on top of that, I wager that if you even think $39.99 is too much when these prices do go up and there's so much, there's going to be a thing where they go, listen, for $9.99, you can get the Game Pass, but you only get to unlock X amount of games a month. That you can pick and choose which ones you want. So you pick 10 games that you want to have, that you are locked in on, so that you don't have to pay the full amount and have everything you want. There will be options for everybody because, like what Philly said, he wants to get his hands and as many gamers as humanly possible. And that could even mean people that just want to play mobile games. You're going to be logged into Game Pass when you're playing your fucking Candy Crush. Everything is going to happen on Game Pass. This is what, and they're paying the big money to have this infrastructure put in place so they can win everybody over. And once they got you, it's game over. I ain't never not going to have Netflix. This is it for me. I ain't never not going to have Netflix. My son ain't never not going to have Netflix or Disney Plus. When he's 20, 30 years old, he'll have Netflix. And by the time he is, Netflix will be extremely profitable, and all the money that they burned for a long period of time is going to pay off. And it's the same thing that's going to happen here for Microsoft. They're going to take big L's for money, but they're going to win over an industry. And that's what happens when you're starting to build from the ground up. They have the money to burn. Their burn rate's going to be huge. But I'm telling you, when they get to the top and they follow through with this, it's GG for anybody else. They're going to own the market like Netflix does right now. It's over.
So the last piece of this is, as the consolidation of the industry via Microsoft, Tencent, Sony even, etc., seems to be the trend moving forward and signals a major shift in how games will be delivered and made, which is what we were just talking about here, certainly indie developers, which we have not talked about as part of this conversation yet, certainly indie developers will continue the cycle of having breakout hits, turning them into self-sufficient publishers. And Phil Spencer himself said this in an interview here this week. He said it is more likely that the next billion-dollar game comes from an indie developer than it will from an established developer under a publisher today, whether Microsoft owns them, Sony owns them, or otherwise. And so that dynamic is still there. You're still going to get things like Frost Giant, where you get industry industry devs that are veterans or in the game long enough where they say, you know what, we want to split off and try our hand at making our own games because we got ideas that are maybe not viable within this development house because it's too risky, but we can go off and do it as an indie developer. And the cycle continues there, where you get an indie developer split off. Once in a while, one makes a banger, turns themselves into their self-sufficient publisher, and then you get these cycles continuing. However, that cycle must be impacted by this in some way. What do you think, Mr. Black, will happen with that cycle? Do we see it where they even make it to publisher status before they're bought out by, like, let's call it the big three, because let's assume there's only going to be three of these bitches moving forward? Or do you think that it's going to be much more picky and choosy going forward than it is right now? Because right now it seems like this is a mad dash to solidify the starting positions, right? Where are we starting in the field as we get this next race underway for video games in the year, let's say 2030, 2035? Where do we want to position? Let's spend the money now. But at that point, when it's solidified, do you think that this indie game developer cycle will continue kind of naturally as it has been? Or do you think buyouts will happen sooner or more frequently? Or do you think they're going to happen at all?
Oh, there's Dolby buyouts. I think what's going to happen, I think this is great news for indie developers. I know some people might think it's bad, but not only indie developers will have an opportunity to create unique games, and I think this is where Steam and Valve is gonna have their lane along with Epic, because the way I look at it is this: you've got Sony and Microsoft; they're gonna fight on the streaming side, and then you've got Epic, and then you've got Steam that are gonna fight on the getting smaller indie games on their platforms. But with that being said, it's great for indie developers because just like what they did with Netflix, what Netflix is doing, they're going to spend obscene amounts of money to get games to go on their streaming services. So Microsoft and or Sony are going to be having bidding wars on these smaller indie developers that are coming up on new prospect games, and they're going to overpay to get stuff on their platforms. Sony, on the other hand, is probably going to have to start doing that with their new thing and get people excited about uniqueness, get people excited about something different. Because the way I look at it, Microsoft, I think, is going to be very commercial, and they're going to have a lot of shit that like everybody loves, and Sony's going to have that too. But I think if Sony is gonna want to get in on and compete against what Microsoft now has to start out, they're gonna have to like champion for gamers. You know, like we're putting games on here that like the gamers can relate to, that the gamers really are crying for. You know, we're not another Call of Duty, right? They're gonna have to like start playing that card because the boutique. They're gonna have to do it, and indie developers are gonna get paid large amounts of money to create unique games and experiences to get people on these platforms to play their games. I think there's going to be a lot of buyouts. It's starting to turn into streaming wars like with Twitch, where companies are going to start buying out streamers to go on their platforms to get people over there. This is exactly what Microsoft just done. Microsoft just went out and bought like the equivalent of YouTube and Facebook, and they're already now they're Twitch, and Sony's going shit.
I think
what can I buy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that I think you're right. I think this is largely net positive for even indie developers, especially indie developers that make at least one really popular game that picks up, and it's even good for some developers that get bought like this, that have games that were expensive to make but didn't necessarily turn a profit originally. I think the best example of that would be the absolute dumpster fire that's Fallout 76. It was a complete and utter failure. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing to try and get it, into the green. It hits Game Pass and it becomes like a top 3 most played game on Game Pass. And you know why? Because people didn't have to spend the money to risk trying the game out. You get 20 million people, some of which willing to try your game out, and you're going to eventually convert people to play your game and spend money on the microtransactions, and now you're making money. So if you weren't on the Game Pass, your game is done. Yep. Now you're on the Game Pass, and people are trying your shit.
And think about this: you get Game Pass goes up to 50 million users, which it will, right? It's inevitable. It's just going to take time. It's going to take a few years, maybe. Now you're going to be able to create games that technically are great games, that are fun, that may have never have been able to get in greenlit because of their budget and what they would have made selling physical copies. Now you can get that game greenlit, put it on a medium where there's 50 million, 100 million people, and instead of only 3 million people potentially playing your game, now 30 or 40 million people are checking your game out. You log on to Game Pass and the newest release, and there's a trailer there, and you can download and play it right now free of charge. It comes with your subscription. Give it a try. And boom. Next thing you know it, now you're creating the next big game because everybody's played it, and now they're begging for number 2. And then that game gets greenlit. And we're not just talking about the bigger titles. We're talking about smaller games. You're going to see a lot of games come back. This is where you might see games like Jet Set Radio Future being able to actually get made for people.
Hexen.
Yes, because they can do it when you have millions of people and they're already paying you. Their fraction of their money is going into this. and you can start putting advertisements on your platform. You can get people engaged on it. You can have microtransactions in there. You can get people excited, and this is the future. It's happening.
Last piece here that I'll ask, that just came to my mind here before we move on. Do you think it's possible that we could see something similar to Netflix, where Netflix says, this is the standard for, like Netflix has, you have to use at least this standard of camera, the file has to be this, whatever, we'll give you X budget or whatever, and you can go out and create your thing, which is, for example, what happened with, what's his name? Fucking Bo Burnham's special. That's how he did it. He just had the bare minimum camera that they would allow you to shoot with and get on there. Because do you think like an indie developer looks at the opportunity and pitches it to Microsoft and say, hey, we'll put our shit on there, and then pitch them something that has microtransactions, because that's how you're going to make money long term. Yeah. And then you put your game on there to get it in front of a guaranteed 50 million people.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate as a possible inroads to your game, because before, with indie developers, you're looking at you could go on Steam or whatnot, and your coverage of how you were going to maybe how long you were going to be in the spotlight, et cetera, could be a thing. But I feel like with something like Game Pass, there's more opportunity there to do like basically what Netflix is doing, where Netflix has as well, where Netflix is saying, all right, we got Netflix originals, we're making our own shit. And in this case, it could be Microsoft just giving this off to indie developers that pitch them ideas to make them programming, or in this case, games specific to Game Pass, because they're constantly trying to have games that will bring people to the Game Pass. Just like Netflix is making movies and TV series, even if it ends up not bombing after a season. You're just doing it. You get somebody in for a season. You get them onto the fucking subscription. You're done.
Yep. I guarantee you, they're going to go, hey, public, we are allocating $2 billion a year on indie developers, all these studios. Dude, these guys could be the saints, man. They could go in and say, hey, we're not going to overwork our studios. We're paying them handsomely to create games for Game Pass. And we're going to guarantee $2 billion a year in allocation to new titles or old titles that we're going to revive from the dead and bring onto our platform as just fan service for you guys for being a subscription here at Game Pass. They can do that shit because they're Microsoft, and they can burn that. And what they're doing is they're converting people to their platform. And once they get on the platform, that's where they spend money. They might not spend the money on the new game, even if they only go back and revert back to Call of Duty and World of Warcraft and fucking Halo and everything else.
Their monthly fee.
They're gonna get their fucking money, and they're gonna pay monthly. This is it, man. This is it.
It's man, it's crazy. It's just a crazy fucking time. We still have to wait and see if this passes muster. Maybe the SEC decides to clamp down on this shit.
It'll pass.
But it's likely to fucking pass.
They're buying a publisher. Like what? Like, they're not buying Valve. You know, they're buying a game studio, a big one, a massive one.
Like people put this into perspective too for like value propositions per month. There are news publications online or gaming publications or whatever even that ask you like $10 a month for next to nothing. Shit, we do it here on the podcast. $10 a month, and you get to ask us questions and get a high quality audio version of the podcast, right? Like people find value in it because they do it. But you're looking at Netflix for whatever, let's say $23 or $22 a month for their HD or their 4K version, and they're putting in hundreds of millions of dollars to create original programming on top of licensing other content. There is an unimaginable wealth of shit at your fingertips for that amount of money per month. And even if it wasn't the pandemic, the amount of content people were consuming on Netflix was more than worth the fucking $20 a month they're spending. People spend $20 going out for breakfast at a fast food restaurant sometimes. Like people. Dude,
I spent $23 on sushi today for lunch. Okay.
But it's funny because people will look at different things different ways. Like, I just spent like $20 in coffee in the last 3 days, kind of an idea. But like an entire month where I consume 30 to 40 plus hours of content is suddenly not worth $24.99 a month.
Dude, this
or in
shit
this case,
it's gonna go up, man. I'm telling you, this is gonna get to the point where Game Pass is literally gonna be $29.99, $39.99 a month. And people will gladly pay it.
Yes.
Because they are going to get so much value out of this, and they're going to be part of the know. And you know what's great about it is when you're spending this shit, parents, like, they're going to spend the shit. You no longer have to go
covers the whole household.
You no longer have to buy individual games, appease little Joey that's 9 years old, and fucking Johnny who's 12, and Timmy who's 16, and they all want 3 different games, and one wants COD, and one wants Lego fucking this, and one wants fucking Hearthstone, and fucking dad or mom just wants to play Candy Crush on her phone, and all you need is one subscription for the whole fucking house, and everybody can play whatever fuck they want, as long as they want, whenever they want, for the low price of $39.99, and everybody in the house is happy. How do you not, problem solved? And even the individuals out there that don't even have a family and they're just gamers, casual or hardcore. The hardcore are getting crazy deals. The casual gamer, at the very least, they're going to break even with options. They're going to be like, oh, you know what? I buy Call of Duty once a year. I buy this game once a year. Now I can play whatever I want. Maybe there's a game that does come out that they want to play.
Madness.
This is where we're going. It's madness.